thought I hit it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I thought I hit the button. Okay, cool. So welcome back to the afternoon session. So today, for the afternoon, I want to, we'll live code the practice session or the practice assignment, the great number practice game. And then at the end, we'll talk about hidden inputs. And I'll talk a little bit about what I need you guys to do, hopefully this weekend, if you can. So let's get started with the demo for the great number game. So I have my file already. No, I guess I don't. I'm gonna create this and open it in a new window. Okay. All right, so I have my file already made. So that's step one. What do I do? How do I make a Flask application? That's my first step.
Install Flask.
Right on, install Flask. So let me open up my terminal. I'm going to say pip env install Flask. Okay. And if you guys could just go to the platform and read along with me, open up the assignment. It's, where is it? Great number game. It's right after the counter. Okay, so we'll walk through and do this assignment together. I'm not going to do any of the fancy styling or anything. We'll just make an ugly one. Okay, so I've installed Flask. I have my pip lock, my pip env, my readme here. I'll just put that so it doesn't go away. So it's the number guessing game. Okay, so what do I do after I've installed Flask and have my pip file and my pip file lock?
Shell.
Run shell. Pip env shell.
Yep, very good. So pip env shell. Make sure I'm in my virtual environment. And again, if I want to test, I just say pip list. And as long as I see that everything's in there, if I got, and I don't see it, what did I do wrong? That's weird. Let me try it again. Okay. I'm gonna try it again. So I'm gonna say pip env install Flask. That's very strange. Let's see. That's there.
Do you need your server?
Well, I want to make sure that I'm in the virtual environment first. Okay, I'm in there, pip list.
It's saying it's stopping you from doing it to avoid a nested environment.
Yeah, I did. So I ran pip list and I didn't see this. So I don't know what happened. It's weird. So I've got Flask, I've got Jinja. So everything is all ready to go. So now somebody said, what's the next step is? Server.py, right? Okay, so I'm going to make new file, server.py. And what do I need up here? I'm going to copy and paste it so you guys don't have to watch me type. So I'm just going to copy this. So I've got I'm importing Flask and importing everything I might need. I don't know if I'm going to need all this stuff, but I'll just import it for now anyway. And I'm going to make my app, creating an instance of the Flask class. It takes dunder name. Oops. Go. And what is the thing that I don't want to forget? What goes at the end of the file?
Name.
Yeah, if dunder name equals, oops, dunder main, then I take my app, my instance of my Flask class, call the run method on it, and pass it debug true. Debug equals true. Cool. All right, so I'm going to make just a root route. App.route equals / and I'm going to call it index. And for now, I'm just going to render a template. So I'm just going to say return render template. And how do I get the template to render? What are my steps?
Make directory templates.
Yep, first thing first, I need a directory called templates. And inside that directory, I need to make my HTML files. So I'm going to make it, I'm going to call it index.html. Okay, I'm just going to make an HTML file. Call it index. And just put something in the body just so I can see what I got. Cool. All right, so now going back to server.py, and now all I need to do is just pass it the string index. Okay, now how do I test it?
You run it.
On the server.
Yeah, you run it,
Yeah.
the Python and then server pi.
Python server.py. So as long as my server starts, I don't have any errors in server.py. Go to a browser. That's over here. And localhost 5000. And I got my index. Cool. All right. So what is the first step? What do we need to do? What do the directions say? So we got, so we need to generate a random number, right? I need to, and I'm going to need to use session to keep track of that number, right? So I don't think we've talked, I think I might have missed the random number. I didn't talk about this, and I apologize. I missed this. I was supposed to talk about this on the first day. So to generate a random number, we have this built into the Python standard library, this random module. Okay, and random has a method on it that's called randint. So this will generate a random number between whatever two values we give it, including those values. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, and actually I'm just going to copy random for now. And I'm going to paste it at the top of my file. And I'm in the wrong place. I sure am. There we go. Okay, so right below here, I'm just going to import random. There we go. Okay, so the directions say to create this form, right? So we want to say, welcome to the great number game. I'm thinking of a number. So let me do that real fast. So I'm going to, in my index.html, I'm going to put that text in there. So I'm going to say, welcome to guess the number. And I'm just going to say a p tag, guess a number between 1 and 100. Okay, so how do I get input from the user? How am I going to get the user to type in data and be able to evaluate it? Just basically get this functionality working. Whoops. What is this right here?
Input.
Yeah, so I just need a form with a submit button, right? So I'm going to go back, great number game, and just put in a form. Yeah, fill in the action later. So input. I'm going to leave it type text for now, but what do I need to give it? What attribute does this input have to have in order for our form to work?
Request?
Not request. So
Post method.
yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, so we need to actually put the post method on our form. So let me do that. So post, oops, I'm sorry, method equals post. But the input needs an attribute, right? Let me do the submit. So input, submit, where is it? I'll just type out input, submit, and I'll just give it a value of submit. And let's just take a look at our form, make sure it's working okay. So if I go back to localhost, and it looks horrible, but that's fine. So if I type in a number here, if I say 34 and I hit submit, so I get method not allowed, but so let's do this first. How do I fix this? That might be easier.
Because it's
In your
inputting a
server?
string.
I'm sorry?
We'd have to fix it in your server.
Right, so methods not allowed. So I want to basically this, where is my form going? When I hit submit, where's it going to go? If I don't put anything in here, it's just trying to get it back to the root route, right? So I need to give my action a string that's going to be or correspond to the name of the route that's going to handle this form, right? So I'm just going to call it guess. Okay, so now if I go back and now if I try to guess 34, I still get my, I gotta refresh the form, try to guess, I'll guess 45 this time. Now I get the not found. So now this is the error that I need to check my server.py, right? So I don't have a route to handle the /guess, right? So I need to create that route. So how do I do that?
At app.route,
Okay,
parenthesis, quote, /guess.
good. Parenthesis /guess. Okay. And I'm just going to give it a method called guess. And I'm just going to return redirect. And we only have one page, so I'm just going to redirect it to the route or to the root. I'm sorry. Cool. So now when I try it, let's see what now I should get, what error should I get? So if I have my route set up to take, by default, it's going to take a get method, right? So I need to specify. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're gonna get a method not allowed because the form is in post.
Exactly. So this route isn't set up to take in post requests. So when I go back, refresh, try to guess a number, it's going to say method not allowed. So I fixed that by going into the route and adding the, whoops, comma, methods. And I want to specify the methods that this route should be able to take. The one I want to be able to take is post. Okay. Now I should be okay. So now when I submit this, it just goes away. Okay, questions so far? I just feel like I'm going too fast.
Can you explain the difference between get and post?
Yes. So a GET request is basically if I go to some website, right? I'm making a GET request. So every time I hit refresh, I'm saying, give me what you have, right? So there's this website, google.com, and I'm sending a request for information. Okay. I'm not asking to change their server. I'm not trying to like upload any data. I'm not doing anything nefarious. I'm just saying, I want this website, right? So that's a GET request. GET requests are just what the word means. You're getting stuff. Post is you're actually updating their server. You're actually doing something that will put data onto their server. Okay, and if you're a web developer, that should scare you, right? Because we don't know what they're going to try to put. So the difference between a GET request and a POST request is basically we need to be leery of POST requests because we're allowing users to put data onto our server. Okay, so that was my long-winded answer. The short answer is get, you're getting stuff, post, you're putting stuff. Okay. Any questions about that? Any other questions about anything actually?
I do.
Yeah.
So if we're getting stuff, aren't we getting something from this guess function and we're using a post?
So it's redirecting, but it's redirecting to this route. Okay, so this is just a get. The root route, I don't have any other methods. I'm not specifying that it can take any posts. So we decide what, I mean, the purpose of this method is to basically as a sort of a gatekeeper, right? So once we get this post request, we're going to process the data inside of this method and then return what we want. And we'll put, this is our chance to put in safeguards and say, if this is code that's going to try to crash our server, or it's not the right code we're looking for, or the right data we're looking for, we can say, we can redirect to like log the user out or do something to prevent any sort of nefarious activity, right? So we can put checks in here to make sure that we're not getting anything that's going to damage our site.
Okay, so theoretically, like with it as it is right now, somebody could put something into this text box that could crash the website if they wanted to.
I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, because right now it's exposed, right? I'm saying I don't have any checks in here. I'm just redirecting. They could put, I mean, there's nothing, it's not hooked up to anything. Please excuse the barking. It's not hooked up to anything. I don't have a database, or it's not, so, but if I did have a database, yeah, it's open to whatever, if they know what SQL to put in to drop my database or to download it, then yeah, it's totally open to anything.
Okay.
Good questions. Anybody else?
Is there a reason why you have post capitalized in methods, but not in guess and action?
That's the way I've always seen it done. I don't know. Let me see if I don't know if it has to be capitalized. Let me see if it does. I guess it doesn't matter. That's just what I've always seen done. I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Yeah, the documentation shows as all caps. I don't, so.
Yeah, I don't know why though. Yeah, it's kind of weird though that the post is lowercase in the HTML, but uppercase here. I don't know the reason. Any other questions?
Just more confusion.
Was that?
It's just more confusion.
Yeah, right. Sometimes it seems like they do stuff to just confuse new people. That's just the feeling I get, or that's how I felt when I was learning this. Okay. Now how do we get the data from so when I enter a number, right? So I'm going to guess 333, which is stupid because it's between 1 and 100. How do I get that? How do I access that data that's being passed in?
Yet?
Well, so now when I click this button, where does the data go?
Nowhere right now?
Yeah, nowhere right now, right? But
Self?
well, technically it's going somewhere. I mean, it's going. Well, no, you're probably right. It's going nowhere. So how do I grab it? How do I get it?
Click handlers?
So we don't need click handlers when we're dealing with a form. HTML by default will just, as soon as you hit the submit button, it will just submit the data wherever you tell it to put it. So if I have a action on my form, it's just boom, just going to go.
You need a new route?
I've got the route. I've got the route right here. So remember, and I only mentioned this once, so I'm going to let you off the hook. So I have this request, right? So to grab the data, I need to pull the data off of this request object. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to print request dot form. Okay, so now when I run this, it works. So it's going somewhere, but when I click this button, what effect am I looking for in my terminal? So notice, watch the terminal down here. Let me move it up a little bit so you guys can see it. Clear it out. So
Posted somewhere.
oops. So, oh, it's not going to do it. Okay. So I'm going to click submit. I get what's happening. I'm going to put in a number, click submit. What is the first thing that pops up? So basically this is saying, okay, I got a post request. It's green. Green means good. 302. I don't remember what that means specifically, but it means good, right? It's not a 4 or a 5. 200 is it was able to return a GET request or a reply to the GET, right? So because it redirected back to the index.html. But what happens as soon as I click submit? What's the first thing that pops up?
The immutable multi-dict.
Yeah, immutable multi-dict, right? So this is the sort of dictionary / tuple data structure that will allow us to get data from our front end. Okay, so this was, I was asking this question earlier about what we needed to add to the input, right? So it's right now when this immutable dict comes back, it's completely empty. It's just an empty, it doesn't even have a tuple in it, right? So what do we need to add to our form, to our input, to be able to signal that the data has a name that we can use? Name. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to give it the answer. Yeah, so I need to give it a name attribute. And whatever I call it is what the key in my immutable dictionary will be. Okay, so if I call it guess, okay, now when I go back here and I refresh my form and I type in a number and I hit submit, what do I get? And I'll make this smaller so you guys can see. So I'll do it again. I'm going to guess 56 and hit submit. Now what happened to my immutable dict?
As guess in there.
Right. So
The
what
and
if
56 too.
yeah. So 56 is what I type into the form, and guess is what I gave the name attribute so that I can grab the data when it comes in. Okay, so if this is a dictionary-like object, right? How would I get the 56 out of this? So if the request.form is equal to this, and it's sort of, we're just going to say that it works like a dictionary, right? What's the syntax to pull a value from a dictionary if you know the key?
You do the bracket or the square bracket
Mhm.
with, and then guess.
Quotation
with the-
marks, right?
Yeah.
Quotation marks.
and then guess.
And yes, right? So that will give us our guess, basically. So I'm going to guess 34. And let me see if I can make this so you guys can see what's going to happen. I guess 34, I'm going to hit submit. And we did it. We got 34. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so now, so the functionality is I need to put this into a session, right? And then the user is going to guess, they're going to guess an answer, and we're going to tell them if they're too high or too low or whatever, right? So, but first we need to put this guess into session. So how do we do that? Caesar, you okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I did, and I apologize about this morning. It was kind of, I still don't know the pacing and how much so I feel like I'm rushing to get through, make sure I get everything. So sessions was kind of disjointed. So I need, first of all, if I'm going to use session, I need to import it. Okay. So to assign it to session, basically it's sort of, and not sort of, it's like a dictionary, right? I just take session and I give it, basically it's like setting a value in a dictionary. So I'm just going to call it user guess just to be different. And I'm going to set it equal to what comes in from the form. Okay, so what, and which is what? How do I assign this value? based on what the user types in.
You need a
You
variable
do.
for it or?
Request
No,
on
so-
form.
So the variable is session. Session is going to
Uh.
be the object where we store the data. And I think I heard somebody say it. So it's, yeah, we just request dot form. And we take the guess. Right, so the guess comes from the form. And we're going to assign it to our session so that we can keep track of whether or not the user has guessed correctly. Right? So I'm going to save my file and I'm going to come in here, and just for development, I always like put my data somewhere, even if it's ugly and it's not going to be there for production. I'm just going to log it so I can see what we're doing, especially if we're building a guessing game. We don't want to not know what the answer is, right? We want to be able to know what the answer is and test if the too low message is working and the too high message is working. So just for production, we're going to say session. I'm just going to log session and make sure it's working. Okay. So any questions about session, by the way? Does that make sense?
So we're just logging just session, or do we need to add user guess onto that?
I'm just going to log the session just to make sure. We can pull the user guess off, but I'm just going to log the session for now, just to make sure it's working.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to guess 34. And I submit and I broke something. Oh, what did I forget? I'd like to say I did it on purpose, but I didn't.
There's no secret key.
Yeah, so it tells us what the issue is. So I forgot a secret key. So if I go back to the Learn platform, and because I can never remember this, what the syntax is. So if I go back here and if I look at the session lesson, it tells me that I need to use basically a random string. Yeah, it's app.secret key. So I'm just going to take this, copy it, and paste it in here. Okay, so now coming back to our application. And if I refresh, I'm just going to go back. There we go. So now I've got my secret key. I'm going to refresh the form just in case. Okay, so now I've got info hello. Oh, okay. So this is saved from, this is still in from the last demo I was doing. So sessions will stay. They hang around forever basically until you get rid of them. So let me, it should go away if I pick a number. Okay, it's just tacking it on. So I have this info hello from the morning, but I have my user guess here as well. So which we'll just ignore this for now. I'll just leave it in there. So any questions about that?
Sessions is the cookies then, right? Okay. All right.
Yeah, and to look at, if you want to look at what session, what cookies are there, and maybe this might be a good practice. So if I open, I did that kind of fast. Let me show you again. There's this little eye in a circle right here on the Chrome browser. I think at other browsers, there's something similar. It's usually here in the address bar. If I click this, it'll show me, I can see what cookies are active on the site. And since I'm just using localhost, every cookie that I've added today is in there. So if I want to see them, I can open up here. I can look in, so it's session, and then it's encrypted, but the encryption isn't something you should trust, right? So the content is this. You can't read it, but a hacker who knows what they're doing would be able to get in here and determine what this is. So if I want to clear it, I can just remove it like that. And that'll probably get rid of my hello thing. So if I refresh this, yeah, now my session's empty. So if I take another guess, now user guess is 99. Okay. Any questions so far?
So I'm trying to follow along and do it along with you.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, in your terminal, you get a post, the green text.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, I have every single thing aligned with yours, and I'm not getting that to post to the terminal.
Okay. Let's troubleshoot this after, because I don't want to just like leave you high and dry, but we'll get it working after. It's probably an issue with, and I don't want to like stop and look at your code. I'd have to look at it to see what's going on, but we'll troubleshoot it after. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay. So I want to store this number in session. So what do the instructions say? I think the instructions say to do it in the root route, right? Oh, I'm the wrong one. Number again. Here we go. Oops, darn it. Okay, so it says creating Flask in the root route, save a random number between 1 and 100 and display a form to the user to guess the number. Okay, so I'm going to, first of all, I need to set up a random number, right? So in the root route, I'm going to use my random module and create a random number. Okay, so we didn't talk about this. Does anybody use the random module at all? I don't know why you would have. Okay, so I'm going to say number equals random dot rand int, and I want a number between 1 and 100. Okay, and it says to store it in the session. Okay, so how do I, and first of all, let me just print out the number so we can see what's happening. So if I print number, and if I go back to my index, and if I move this over and refresh, I get 29. Okay, so the 29 is the random number that was generated by the random module. Okay, so I ran in, again, just return some random number between 1 and 100 or whatever numbers I give it. So if I refresh the page, I get 36. So if I refresh it again, I get 12. So
If you submit a number, won't it also pick a new number?
No, because my number, I'm handling the user guess in the guess route. So if I say 45 and hit submit, so it sets 45 right here, right? That comes from the post request. But every time the page refreshes, it's going to generate a random number. So now it's 9, now it's 22, now it's 6.
Didn't it do 8 after your 45 though?
Yeah, when you
Mhm.
submitted one,
Yeah.
wouldn't that completely make the game not work though?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a problem, right? So how do we fix this? How do we get it to generate a random number, but not generate a random number every time I refresh, right? Because if I make a guess and hit submit, right? If I scroll down, my number, I guess 34, but it changed to 78.
Do you have to store the random number in a session too?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's say, instead of printing the number, I'm going to store it in a session. So I'm going to say session, let's call it the number.
But like how your other session, like how it kept hello from the last time, wouldn't all the numbers stack up though? So say you like guess and then you refresh the page or something, like wouldn't there be 2 numbers then?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to say the number equals number. Okay. So now I'm logging session. So let's see what happens when I do this. So I'm going to guess a number just to see what we get. So I'm guessing 34. There's no number yet, right? Because right here, here's our session. There's no value in there. So if I hit submit, so I get user guess is 34. The number is 36. Okay, so if I put in another, let me just put in 36. Okay, so now the number is 80, but the user guess is 36. So now I'm going to guess 80, right? Because that should be the number. Now it's 90. So it keeps moving. We're trying to hit a moving target. So how do we, what logic can we use to only assign one random number until the user guesses it?
We need an if else to determine if that session variable exists already.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So how do I do that?
If
Are you doing it in Python or are you doing it?
Oh yeah. I can't do anything else. So I want to conditionally assign this number, right? I only want to do this if a condition is met. So I'm going to put my if statement up here. So if something, right? I don't know what, something. Yeah, we got to figure out what the something is.
It would be the number.
Okay, the number, what do you mean? Like just the number?
Well, it would be like how you have it in the brackets. So quotation, the number.
Okay, if the number. Okay.
And then it would in session.
Have you done this assignment?
No.
Okay. All right. So if number in session.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you saying that? What is that going to tell us?
It tells us if there is the number inside of our session.
Okay. So if the number's in session, do I want to assign the number?
No.
No,
No.
because you already have one, right?
Right, because it's already in there. So how do I, so if the number's not assigned, then I want to do this, right?
So else it.
Not else if.
You need something to like make it stop making numbers, right?
Yeah. So the beauty of Python is it reads just like English. I mean, it's sort of like English, kind of like a Dutch translation of English. So I can say if the number not in session, then assign the number. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that before though, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the
So,
exclamation
and that's,
point,
I
right?
think this is one of the reasons why Python's a little better than JavaScript, I'm just saying. But we're basically saying that if this variable isn't in the session, so if this key isn't in the session, we'll call it an object, then assign the number, right? Then generate a random number. Otherwise, we just want to print the number and move on, right? And I said otherwise, I don't have to have an else or anything like that. I can just say that if this condition is met, go ahead and assign the number. Otherwise, just go on to the next thing, right? So if this is false, then it's just going to go and it's going to print the number and it's going to return the template.
Right.
Okay. Questions about this? Okay. Let me save and run. Okay, somehow I broke this. What did I do? I'm going to restart my server. Okay, cool. All right, so the number is 96. I guess that's from the last time. User guess is 80. So I'm going to say submit. So the number is 96. I'm going to submit again, submit again, submit again, submit again. Now notice that every time I click the button, we get a random number, right? You see that if I click it, it's kind of confusing because I'm logging something else. But the number is being generated because every time I hit this button, it's refreshing the browser. So it's hitting this route. So every time it runs, this code is running and it's printing out the number, but I'm only assigning it if the session is empty. Okay, so this is going to stay 96 regardless of how many times a number is generated.
Couldn't we just put the random generator inside the if function?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean only generated if?
Yeah, just so you're not having it run calculations in the background for no reason.
I like the way you think. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I got
Okay.
confused for a second. Is
Okay, no, yeah. If
so,
you're confused, you're normal. This is
so you-
confusing.
so you're saying the number is 96, but then the number keeps changing.
Right. Yeah.
So like, how could you explain that real quick again?
Yeah. So in my session, right, this is my session object right here. Okay.
Mhm.
So the session has a number key in it, right? See where it says the number right here?
Yes.
So it's checking, I'm saying like, if this exists in my session object, which it does, then generate or assign the number to the session. Otherwise, skip it. Okay,
Okay.
so it's checking to see, it's checking my session to see if this exists. And so let me do this. If I clear out my cookies. Oh, I can just remove, huh? There we go. So now if I clear my cookies, how can I show you this without generating a number? Let me comment this out. I'm afraid. Is it going to work? Yes. Cool. So now my session is empty, right? You see there's empty angle brackets. There's no variables saved at all. Okay, so now when I run this code, comment it back in, I'm going to generate a random number, and we'll change this in a second, but it's going to say if the number not in session, right, which it's not in there, it's empty, then run this code, then say generate the session, create the key, the number, and assign it to the random number I generate on line 11. Okay, so now when I hit refresh, or if I submit the button, this code's going to execute because there's nothing in the session. Okay, it's empty. Does that make sense, Tyre?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to run the code. I'm going to refresh my browser. And try it again. It's not working. What am I doing wrong? Oh, I didn't save the file. Oh, okay. I'm just really good at this, guys. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh, and now I get my number.
Okay.
Okay, so now the number exists in my session, so this code will never run until I take the number out. Okay, so any questions about that?
So keeping 28 this whole time, then, like even if you refresh it, you're saying?
Yeah, even if I refresh it, it's going to stay 28 because this is going to be bypassed because it's asking if number not in session.
Okay.
But it is in session, right? So it's just gonna it's gonna skip the if entirely and go on to the next line.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so well, I forgot what I was doing. Okay, we want to move this inside. So instead of assigning a variable, like James says, we're generating a random number every time, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that expensive of an operation, but we can make it a little better, right? So instead of creating a variable, I can just generate the random number inside of this if statement. So how would I do that?
Take out the not and
not the not. We still need that conditional because we don't want to generate it.
You could just set the session variable equal to that random function.
Exactly. I can just take this out. And instead of creating a variable and then assigning it, I can just assign it directly to the random number that's generated.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So now this won't work because it's not going to run. So let me clear out my cookie. And I'd like to know who came up with the name cookie because that's the stupidest name I've ever heard. I apologize. I shouldn't say that. It's a wonderful name.
Okay. I just think the reason it's cookies because you kind of leave crumbs around.
Is that why?
I'm like 95% sure is because it's like a piece of cookie, like crumbs, like of information, and that's why they call it cookies.
Okay. Programmers just are notorious for coming up with dumb names.
It was coined by a gentleman named Lou Montulli.
Are you? Is that a joke?
No, that's serious.
Okay.
That he's the person that coined the term cookie for web browser.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Quick Google search.
Oh, okay. Ed, did you know that? No. Okay. All right. I don't know why it assigned 28 again. I'm starting to freak out. So let me try. I'm going to clear it again.
Don't you need to click on the remove?
Oh, I know why. I know why. Because I'm running this. Yeah, so now I did remove it, right? Maybe.
You just kept on clicking done. You didn't click on the remove.
You just did it again. You just pressed done again.
I promise I'm smarter than I look. Now if I click remove, okay, sorry about that, guys. Now it's, okay, now we're in business. So now it won't be 28. Oops. Undo, come on. Okay, if it's 28, I'm gonna let Ed take over. All right, 43, cool. Okay, so we have our number. How are we doing on time? Good. Okay, so now I want to handle the user's guess, right? So if the user guesses 99, I want to set up the logic to compare the number 99 to 43 and respond. So if it's too high, I want to say you're too high. If it's too low, I want to say you're too low. Okay, so where should I put that? And that might not be the best question. I think probably it's a matter of choice where we put it. My feeling is that it's best to put it inside the guess route, keep all the logic in one place, because this is where we have the data. So I would put the logic in here to, figure out if the guess is right or not. So how would I write this in Python to see if the user is right, wrong, high, low? How would I do this?
If statement.
Yeah. So if what?
So if number in session. So if the number.
Okay. So I'm going to say
if session bracket the number.
Good.
Parentheses.
The number.
Or quotations.
Okay.
In session, because it's Python.
Well, we know it's in session because otherwise we wouldn't be guessing, right? Because it's gonna create a number in session.
So it's there already.
Yeah. So we know it's there. We want to compare though. So when I guess a number, I want to compare it to 43 and see if it's high or low or equal.
So if that is double equal the request dot form.
Yeah.
Quote get.
So if session the number double equal request dot form. What?
The guess or
yes, right.
Quote the guess.
Quote the guess. And I misspelled request.
Does it make a difference if we compare it to the request form or the session variable that we created from it?
Say that again.
So on line 17, we made the session variable equal to the request form.
Yeah.
So on this if statement, does it make a difference if we compare it to the session variable or the form variable?
Oh.
I don't
think
so,
it matters. I don't think so. I'm gonna say I don't think so. Let's see what happens when we do this, and if we get an error, we can fix it. I think this is okay though. I think we can take the form and compare it to what's in the session.
My first thought is that when you submit it and it refreshes the page. Well, I guess that wouldn't matter because we only need the guess for one iteration anyway.
Right. Well, let's see. I mean, I could be off. But let's just print something so we can see what happens. So I'm going to print. Let's print session user guess. Okay, so so now I'm saying that if session the number is equal to what comes in from the request.form.
We could just say you guessed right.
Yeah, but I'm just going to put this in here just to see what's going to happen.
Okay.
So I'm going to guess. So if session, that's only if it's equal. Yeah, okay, so I know what the number is. So I'm going to guess 43. And hit submit. And nothing's happening. What happened? How come? Uh-oh. What did I do?
I think there,
Server broke.
Yeah, server's not working. So always check and make sure your server keeps running. So if we have a prompt here, we broke something. So I'm gonna run Python server.py again. So when
You
if
see
you
like
make
a syntax error, then that
yeah, as
means
soon as
the-
there's a syntax error, it'll break.
okay.
So when I was thinking, I left like the trailing colon off, and I think that's what broke it. Okay, so now it's back up, and I'm just gonna go back so we don't have to refresh. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh. The number's still 43. So I'm gonna say 43 because I'm testing to see if the number in the session is equal to what I put in the form. And I do that and I get 43, and that's not helpful at all. So let me put in hello.
well, since it's true, it'll just be like,
Yeah, but
got
I don't know. I couldn't tell what it was logging. So I'm gonna say 43 and nothing. Saying 43, and all it does is print 43. And I think that's coming from somewhere else.
that's coming from the next print, right?
Yeah, I think it's coming from, I have another print statement in here somewhere. I don't know where it's.
Right after it.
Yeah, it's line 20.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So it's printing what I'm typing in, but this isn't hitting at all. I'm not getting the hello. So what's going wrong?
Somehow it's falsing it.
Yeah.
Maybe because, does it matter if it's a so that's a string and that's a number. If you look up there.
Yes. So the number, well, wait, the number is a number. Okay. Yeah. So the number in session is a number, but what's my guess?
Your guess is coming out as a string.
Yeah. So anytime we get data from a form, it's a string. Always, always, always. Okay. So we can never pass any sort of anything other than a string from a form. So if we get data from a form, we have to coerce it or change it into
You need like the string parentheses thing then?
so not the string. So to convert
Or the int, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, we want to convert this to an int. So now if I wrap it and say int, save it, and now I'm getting nervous. Let's see. Okay, cool. Now we get hello. So my session is my session is a number. I get the data from the form and it comes in as a string. So I convert it to an integer. Now this works, basically. The if statement fires, it's true. So I get the print hello. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So now I just need to write, I need to indicate to my user, yes, Eric.
No, just real quick. I think Ed told me earlier that there was no triple equals in Python, right?
That's right.
Okay, because I know triple in Python or in JavaScript doesn't care about strings or integers. It'll go past that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to use the conversions in Python to make it work.
So you have to convert one of them because
Yeah.
because if I go Python.
So is it always strict in Python?
Is it always what?
Strict, like double equals sign.
So there's
is
another way to compare.
considered strict?
There's another method in Python for strict equality. And I'm drawing a blank. I want to say it's is, like dot is. And that'll compare, that's for strict equality. But for, I want to see if the string, this will fit. Yeah, so we would have to convert one of, because the string 43 equals the string 43. So we would need to either convert this to a string or convert this to an int. And I think for this purpose, it's probably better to convert to an int because we're comparing number input.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
What happens if you put a space number?
Good question. Space 45. I want to say it's just going to convert it. Yeah, it prints the 45. Now if I put space 43, yeah, it still works. It just, I guess it strips it, can just returns the number. All right. How am I doing? Oh, geez. Okay. So how do I want to have a condition if they're too high, a condition if they're too low, and a condition if they're just right, right? So if the number is, so if their guess is greater than the number, what do I want to tell them?
Go lower.
So if the number that
Guess
they
too
guess is
high.
too high, right? So I'm going to print too high. And I'm going to, my number's still 43, so I'm going to guess 99. And I get too high, but can the user see that?
We need to print
No, because this is our backend. This is our terminal that's running on our server. So the user will never see this unless they hack into our server. Okay, so we need to tell the user that they're too low or too high. So how do I get data from the back end to the front end? How do I pass information to the front end?
Jinja.
Jinja, yeah. But what's probably the best way, since we're dealing with sessions, what would be the best way to indicate that they're too high or too low?
A pop-up maybe?
Yeah. So I think that probably the best way to make a pop-up is just with a session, because when it changes, we can update the message to be either too high or too low. Okay, so I'm going to say if they are too high, I'm going to make a new variable in my session called message. And I'm going to set it equal to the string too high if they're too high. Okay, then how do I get this? Now, my sessions are available to any route, I'm sorry, to any view in my application. So I can print the message anywhere I like on this page. So what's probably the best place to indicate if they're too high or too low?
Below it or next to it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to put it under the form. I'm just going to say, use Jinja, right? And I'm going to say session message. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh and I'm testing to see if they're too high. It's still 43, so I'm going to say 99, submit, and I get the too high. Okay. Questions about that? Does this make sense? Okay. So let's finish this up. Let's do, I'm just going to do the rest of the logic. So what do I do if they're too low? How do I indicate that they're too low? What's the logic?
Else?
Well, I could say else, or I could just do another if statement, right? Well, let's do it that way. Let's do else. So how do I indicate? I want to choose three different options, right? I want to put a message if they're too high. I want to put a message if they're too low, and I want to send a message if they get it right.
So elif.
Yeah. So I'm going to say elif what?
Session square brackets, the number is lower.
My typing gets worse later in the day. So if it's too low, so if their guess is greater, I want to say, I'm just going to copy. So if it's too low, then I want to say, I want to change my session variable message, right? Because I don't want them to pile up here, right? I want to be able to indicate that something has changed. So I'm going to override this variable. I'm going to say session and change the message to be too low. Okay. So now I'm going to test it. I'm going to say the number is 43. I'm going to say 34 and they get too low. And if they get it just right, I'm going to say else. And The message is going to be what?
You got it right.
Yeah. Session message equals, you got it. Oops. Cool. And what did I do wrong? Forgot a bracket.
Bracket.
Yeah.
Kind of hung there.
There we go. Still mad.
Is that print statement messing it up?
Oh, yep. Thank you. There we go. I just still wrong. You got it. Session. I'm not seeing it.
I think that return is kind of confused. No, because that's for the definition guess, right?
I think it's because you have that print statement on 23 in between your else if and your else.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. All right, so now it should be, if I get 43, submit. Try to refresh. What did I do wrong? No, it's just spinning. Oh, I crashed it. Okay, number still 43. Oh, and it's still, you got it from before. So if I say 43, submit, you got it. Cool. All right. I don't want to go too much longer because you guys are probably ready to move on. Okay. Any questions about this?
Does the print statement in 19, does that matter anymore? Now that we got a session message?
No, that was just my test just to see if it was working. So I can take that out now. And
But
also
that was printing in the terminal though, not necessarily, that wasn't printing on the website, right?
exactly. Any print statements will only appear on the server side. We want to communicate with our user. We have to use session or some other
Curly brackets.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Exactly.
Can you just show real quick again what's printing the secure cookies up there in the index, I guess?
Yeah, yes. So I just have, and that was what I was going to say. We want to take this out. All I'm doing is just using Jinja to log the session.
Okay.
So, and for a guessing game, it's kind of defeats the point to tell the user what the answer is. So you would take this out in production, obviously, and then that way it's actually a guessing game. Cool. Any other questions?
Where was that that line that you just deleted? Where was that connected to on your Python?
So that's just the session. So if I just say session, as long as I'm using the session object, right? So I import that from Flask. As long as I have this and I set variables in session, they're available anywhere in my application. So if there's a session variable and I have 100 different HTML sites, I can use that session anywhere. I don't have to pass it through a route or pass it as a variable. It's just available universally.
But for that specific line that was printing, user, all this other stuff, that was just connected to all the different session things here.
Yeah. So since I only have one page, right? It's just as long as I put session here, I can specify, right? I can put the message up here if I wanted to. I could say message, right? And it'll say I think it should say you got it because that's still in the, yeah. But I was just printing the whole thing just so I could see what I was dealing with and what was working.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is just for, you wouldn't obviously leave this in there for the end product. Any other questions? Okay. I apologize for going long, but I just need to cover one more thing. So in the platform, and we're going to use this later when we get into databases, but there's a possibility of using hidden inputs in our forms. Okay, so, well, sorry about that. So if you have a form, you can create a form with the type hidden, and I'm just going to do it for the sake of time. I'm going to do it in our application. So I can add this hidden input into a form. So if I want to pass data from the front end to the back end without the user seeing the data, like if I have a ID number that I want to keep track of, but I don't want the user to see the ID because it's just has to do with my database, I can include this input with a type of hidden, and I can pass data back and forth from the front end to the back end. So I'm just going to copy this and go back here to my number game. And so I'm just going to paste in this hidden input. And so now when I give it a name, which form, it says which form from the, and I'm just going to say, I don't know, hidden. So it makes more sense. And the value will be secret. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my server and where am I going to do it? I'm going to do it here. So in my, I'm just going to print out request dot form. I always misspell request. There we go. So now when I go to my form, and if I put in a number, submit it, got to refresh the page. There, now I have this hidden and secret. So I can pass data from the front end to the back end, just data that only I need to worry about. Like the user doesn't need to worry about what their ID number is in my database, right? So, but if I want to keep track of that, then I can just put it in as a hidden input on the form, and I can manage my data that way. The problem is, if you go into, if somebody who knows what they're doing goes into the inspector and selects the form, they can change and manipulate the data. So it's hidden from people who don't know what they're doing, but it's not hidden from people who know what they're doing. So you only want to use the hidden inputs for things that aren't secure or won't break anything. So be leery about using hidden input. You wouldn't pass like a credit card number or something like that via hidden inputs. It would only be for like data management. Okay, does that make sense? Question? I know I kind of rocketed through that.
I literally got a message when I was looking into my inspect tool. It had a little yellow warning, and it said,
Really?
don't put any information in here that, or any code. Don't put any code in here if you don't know what the code is.
Really?
Literally like an hour ago. I was
Huh.
like, what? I've never seen that before. I just closed the inspect tool.
Was it a hidden input?
No, it was just like a little banner.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to like inspect elements, and then the yellow warning banner just popped up. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Does this make sense? Any questions about the hidden inputs? And there's going to come a time when you're going to need to use this and you're going to forget about it, but I'll remind you when the time comes. All right. Any questions? All right.
One question.
Yes, sir.
So when you were refreshing the page, the number always stood as 43, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we supposed to get, well, after the user gets the number correct, don't we want a new random number to be chosen?
Yes. Yes.
But we didn't do that yet, right?
We haven't done that. No.
Okay.
Just because just in the interest of time. So
Yeah. Okay.
And plus I'm afraid I was going to break it. But so yeah, to do that, there's the way to do it is, I need to stop being so scared and just do it. Okay. So if I want to reset my session, there is it in here? It might be in the instructions for this exercise. I think it's here. Let's see. Where is it? I thought it was in here, but it's and I can't remember the syntax off the top of my head. It's
in the counter assignment.
In the count, oh yeah, in the counter. Thank you.
Weirdly enough, I don't know why it's in there.
I knew it was in here somewhere. Yeah, it's right here, session.clear. Should have remembered that. Okay, so if we
Okay.
want to, so after the user gets it right, we can just say session.clear. And see if it works. And I need to, I don't know what the number is. I got to put this back in. Okay, so if I refresh, so the number's still 43. Oh, okay, so let's see if this works. Oh, user guess is 34. Let me try this. So if it equals, if the number is 43, if I put in 43 and submit, it works. I can't believe it worked. So the number is now reset to 62 and the game's ready to start over again. So all my sessions were cleared out. So to clear a session, it's the session.clear.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions? I know that went way long, so I apologize. And I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all for your patience, participation.